Now that bouncy, bright, cheerful music can only mean one thing, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Another segment, stimulating as it will be, with Coach Carol Phillips. How are you, Carol?
Good, Ken. How are you?
Very, very well.
I'm excited to be here. A different time today.
How about that? 4 o'clock.
An hour later. It's almost like us getting ready for the time change.
That's it. You might be reaching a whole different audience today.
There you go.
Carol Phillips, the author of the award-winning 52 Simple Ways to Health. And it's won any number of international and national awards. And you can get that book how, Carol?
On Amazon.
Amazon?
It's available as a paperback,
Yeah.
ebook, and audiobook. And it's also available at a few places locally, including Gibson's in Concord.
There you go. All right. Look for it. Carol Phillips, 52 Simple Ways to Health.
And I'm excited about today's show because it's an important topic. And we're going to be giving away a family 4-pack of Monarchs tickets.
That's right.
So get ready to call in, where that's going to be an exciting hour.
And whoever wins can pick their own game.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
You're not boxed into a certain game. Right.
Flex
That's
tickets.
Flex
great.
tickets.
Flex tickets.
Oh,
Yes.
boy, I'm gonna
Take your
have-
family.
yeah.
It's so much fun. I was there on Friday night,
Yeah.
and it's just such a fun family atmosphere. It's wonderful.
It is. It really is. They managed to get a point with the shootout on Friday night. They lost on Saturday, but did get a point, even though they lost the shootout on Friday night. And the Monarchs will be in Reading, Pennsylvania on Friday, Glens Falls, New York on Saturday.
On the road again.
On the road again.
Now, don't we know the guy who runs the blimp? Wasn't that Mr.
That's
Weed?
Dan Weed, yes.
Yeah.
Weed Family Automotive. Yep, Dan Weed runs the blimp.
Connections.
He is the driver, or the pilot, if you will, of the blimp.
Another fun part of the game.
That is. Well, Coach Carol, I know you have an interesting topic and one that affects the lives of many.
Today we're going to be talking about employers supporting caregiving employees. It's a growing population. There's a huge need. And if companies support their employees, it's amazing the return that they can get. So here are some of the stats. We have 66 million caregivers in the country, 29% of the U.S. adult population.
Now, when you say caregivers, just to clarify, what
Right.
exactly do you mean?
They're taking care of, either part-time or full-time, of someone they know or a loved one who is ill, aged, or disabled.
Okay. And they are the primary caretaker.
Right. And the numbers are just incredible. And when I work with employers, one of the things that I say to kind of get their attention is that you have a dirty little secret here at your company. And they say, what? It gets their attention because I think it's so important. And they say, what is it? And I say, you have employees who are caregivers and they don't want you to know. Many caregivers are trying to hide the fact that they are caregiving because they're nervous about possibly being the next person to be laid off. They don't want the time that they take off to be noticed, that it might be increasing. And they want to not miss the next promotion that's given at work.
Sure.
So they feel that it might be a black mark against them. And in a lot of cases, it can be a black mark against them. But we're having a population now that's the caregiver population is increasing. The senior population is increasing. And what we need to do is embrace and support these employees however we can so that it ends up being a place where they can find resources and support instead of fearing being laid off, which happens too often. Caregivers, as soon as they miss too much work, they're laid off. And what I'm asking companies to do is to think long term, because granted, they might suffer a short-term loss because of some of the needs that these caregivers have. However, they will get a long-term gain if they support the employees because you're going to have less turnover. You're
Loyalty.
Exactly. The
All of those
loyalty
things.
is just priceless.
And now, am I correct, Carol, that probably 85% of those caregivers are women?
Actually, it's really surprising because the number of male caregivers is increasing. 44% now
Wow.
Yeah.
are
That
men.
really is surprising.
I wouldn't
And
Yeah.
You know why most people wouldn't guess it is because they talk about it even less than women do.
Oh, sure.
Because it's more socially acceptable for women to talk about being a caregiver than a man.
Okay.
So
Now, can this be care? Like, I'm thinking of my husband, who does a lot with his parents more than he has, and has taken a day or two off there from a new job to help his family, his parents, but it's more like going with them to a doctor, going with them to a lawyer, versus actually bodily care. Is there a distinction in that?
Nope, it runs the gamut.
Okay.
So it's, statistically, it's, they'll look at certain numbers, if you're helping a minimum of so many hours a week. But everybody's on a continuum there. And somebody might start out just every now and then bringing a parent to a doctor's appointment, giving them a ride, dropping them off, picking them up. But what I experienced personally was my mother ended up being diagnosed with dementia, with Alzheimer's. And so, of course, with the Alzheimer's, it might start off with occasional needs, but then it slowly transitions into full-time, and then the need just grows and grows. So then it gets to the point where you're having to take care of them 24/7, and then you're having to bring them to every doctor's appointment and stay there and be in the room with them because they're not answering important questions correctly. So sometimes, the need can increase, sometimes quickly, depending on what the person's health condition is. But overall, we really do need to start addressing this issue, giving people more support and resources, but then addressing it in the workplace too.
Because it weighs on your mind. I mean, if you're concerned about a parent and you're trying to do your job, you're not fully focused on your job. Whereas if you had the time without fear of, anything happening at your job to do that one task with your parent and come back.
Right.
And you could fully focus on your job and not be worried, how am I going to figure out how to do this over here? And you're distracted.
Right. And just the support, just the difference between working for an employer where you feel like you have to hide it versus working for an employer where they support you and they're generous and they know that it, in most cases it's short term. Then you can focus on your job more, or sneaking out for a few minutes to make a phone call, to make an appointment. Some employees, they feel like, I'm going to be watched if I'm away from my desk, I'm going to be docked. Whereas other people, if they just have that support, they know they can just go out for a few minutes, make a phone call, and come back, and it's no big deal.
And that might be true when you think, I've worked in manufacturing environments where you punch a clock. If you're not at your workstation, you have to punch out. So I would think for someone in that kind of work environment, it could be even more stressful because you have to explain to your boss why you're away from a machine. And your productivity decreases, or, you're not following a production line or production timetable because you do need that 5-minute phone call. So, it's when you pull this out in the whole labor pool, it gets even more intense for a lot of people.
Right. And companies are learning more and more now that they can't be so strict with employees because it increases stress. It increases the rate of employee turnover. Whereas if they're more realistic and more supportive and let people, take care of what's going on in their personal lives because it ebbs and flows, it's not always so cut and dry, then they get the return with the employees not leaving and working harder when they are there because they're more loyal to that person who's caring and understanding. So to give you some more of the information on the stats is more than 1 in 6 people working full or part-time are also caregiving. And the numbers are increasing. The average length of somebody who caregives is 4.3 years. And I actually know someone who ended up writing a book on caregiving. She unexpectedly took care of 3 family members full-time for 12 years.
Wow. Man.
And I'll tell you, it's mentally and physically exhausting. And it does take a village to help our, disabled citizens, elderly citizens. And so if we're all working together, it can make such a difference in our community. And then the other thing that's shocking is because these caregivers often, even if they're not laid off, they miss out on promotions, they miss out on other job opportunities, They have to sacrifice opportunities to become further educated, which could
Sure.
result in higher pay. And the average caregiver loses over $304,000 in the course of their lifetime. So then when they go to retire, they have less Social Security, they have less resources. So it really impacts people significantly.
Does take a toll, yeah. I'm sure, though, employers, as the years have gone on, do employers handle it better now than they once did? Are they more aware of the situation?
Very slowly.
Very
It's
slowly.
slowly starting
Okay.
to change.
Yeah.
And what businesses really need to pay attention to is the companies that are voted the best to work for are also the companies that tend to support employees who are caregivers. And
Yeah.
for people who focus on the numbers, the cost to businesses regarding caregivers right now is $6.6 billion a year to replace employees who quit or retire early because of caregiving needs, because many of them they're just unexpectedly forced into that situation. 6.3 billion in workday interruptions.
Wow.
So employees coming in late, leaving early, having to take extended lunches. And then $5.1 billion in absenteeism. So it really is costing the companies a lot of money, but the more supportive they are, the more they try to create some win-win situations, then they can start seeing a return.
Right. Because I tell you, it's hard to get fired from a lot of companies because there's so many protocols in place, but absenteeism and tardiness are the two major ways a company can, document a way to let go of somebody or put them in a layoff. Having worked in manufacturing, so that really hits home that absenteeism or being late and leaving early, are obvious, and employers see that, and those are the two things they often key in on
Right.
for an employee's performance, and are we going to keep them the next round
Right.
or not?
And we need to get away from that thinking of, these are the work hours, so structured. And one great thing about the millennials, they get a bad rap a lot of times, but they've come into the workforce insisting on more flexible hours and a more flexible lifestyle. And that's going to end up benefiting caregivers when employers are forced to be more flexible with what, they consider their work hours.
66 million caregivers out
Wow.
there. Wow. Is that what you said? 66
Yes,
million? Wow.
29% of the adult population in the United States.
Wow.
And that number is growing
Yeah.
very quickly.
Because
And-
people are living longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we had a guest here. I think you had a guest for assisted living. She sat here. I'm trying to remember her name. And she worked for a particular assisted living business. And they were there. She said something like 66 million beds in the next 10 years or something. It was an astronomical figure.
You're thinking of Paula Whittier from the Arbors of Bedford.
Yes. And, you go through Londonderry, Route 2, 102. It's everywhere, assisted, and with 1,000-unit build complexes.
The growth
You know.
of the assisted living facilities and nursing homes is
It's like New Hampshire's,
amazing.
next to tourism, you've got assisted living or senior housing. It's like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen to all these buildings in 30 years? But like the expense,
right.
I see, oh my gosh, how are people, afford to live there without some real good planning?
And what's really scary is the places that don't accept Medicaid.
Yeah.
So, people who have money because they sold their house or they have retirement, and then they go into one of these facilities, and of course the cost is astronomical. And
In New Hampshire in particular. I mean, there are other parts of the country it's less, but we
Right.
live in New Hampshire.
And what's scary is sometimes people aren't told that
yeah.
when they run out of money, they have to leave.
Right.
And then where do they go?
Yeah.
And, we're going to get to the point where there aren't enough Medicaid beds available.
It's not cheap anywhere, no matter where you are. It's not inexpensive for elder services and elder housing. Because, from a personal point of view, one of the best things my mother ever did, when she's still alive, 89, almost 90, but she's had some health issues over the last few years. But a number of years ago, let's say 20 years ago, 25 years ago, she bought long-term care insurance,
Yeah.
which has turned out to be a godsend, really. I honestly don't know what we would have done without that long-term care insurance.
And she's really lucky that she ended up with a company that stayed solvent, because
Yeah.
I remember years and years ago when everybody was buying it up suddenly, and I thought, well, what if these companies go out of business and you've paid all this money and the premiums are high?
Yeah.
And sure enough, that's what happened with some companies. So people were out of luck.
Wow.
This is the company where the name of the company is the gentleman has a very famous signature, if you know what I mean.
Oh. No, so they go out of
Who would that be?
business versus being swallowed up by larger insurance companies. Doesn't someone buy those policies?
Right, not in all the cases. So
Wow.
yes, I know.
But I honestly don't know what we would have done. I mean, because when she had a fall a few years ago, she lived at home for a while, but had someone there with her 24 hours a day.
Oh my
The
God.
long-term care didn't cover
Right.
all of it,
Right.
but it covered quite a bit of it. Not all of it, but quite a bit of it. Now she's in a nursing home, and again, long-term care covers a good deal of it.
That's terrific.
So I mean, it's it's a crapshoot. Some people may never need it, but probably something that more people should look into with a major company that's not about to, go out of business anytime
Right,
soon.
exactly. That's so important.
Yeah. But that's certainly been a godsend. I don't know, honestly, what being an only child, that makes
right
it more
there,
difficult. I think.
Definitely.
But and she does have relatives in the vicinity and that sort of thing. But I don't know who would have been the care provider,
Right.
virtually around the clock.
Right,
If
what
she
would have
didn't-
happened
yeah,
if she didn't have that?
Yeah.
And caregiving in the home is very expensive.
It is.
So
Oh, it
even
is.
with
It
people
is.
who think that we've saved enough money, we have a house, it's paid, if you start needing caregivers even if it's just several hours a day, it adds up very quickly.
Oh yeah.
So does this all tie back into, Carol, the idea, like you've been teaching us, good nutrition, stay active, all those things you don't think about when you're looking at a, lovely plate of cupcakes, say, but, all of the things that are investing in yourself to do most you can to have maximize your golden years, we'll say,
Right,
or
absolutely.
to mitigate those risks.
Right, and just, focusing on making good decisions most of the time. Instead of every day you're not taking care of yourself because, quote unquote, tomorrow you're going to start making such, great strides. Much better to just take it slow, do something realistic today, and let that build. And it'll make a huge difference in your future.
And I was thinking about, we were talking off air about tidying and, uncluttering your home. And I keep thinking, okay, I should go through my books, or I should go through my sentimental things. And I thought, sweep the floor first before you wash it. So just take the surface stuff. What are you looking at right now in your kitchen that you could toss out? Or, are you tempted by that bag of jelly beans? Then give them to your neighbor or throw them away. So, sweep your floor, get all the surface stuff off, and you'd be amazed
Right.
at how much you've eliminated from your home or behavior. And then you can get into the harder stuff. Maybe that's harder to make choices about, but at least sweep the floor. That's how it helps me, that
Right.
visual.
I heard something years ago
Yeah.
that I think is so true in most cases, and that is how much your living space is cluttered is directly reflected upon how your brain is.
Oh,
if you're-
gosh, I'm in
Yeah.
trouble.
Yeah.
If you're
I'm
a
in
very,
trouble.
stress-filled person
Mhm.
who's always doing 20 things at once, then, your house is going to reflect that.
That's what my
Whereas
car is.
if your
Yeah.
brain is very calm and organized and happy, you're not going to be in a chaotic living setting. So,
What
although
Tim's apartment looks like, I wonder.
Although the
Wouldn't
other
you like
thing
to
I
know?
find is that if people are older and they grew up during the Depression,
Yes.
they tend
Yeah.
to have kept everything because they grew up knowing that, you might have to sell something for your next meal.
Right.
So you didn't
Right.
just give things away. You always made sure you had stuff around.
Well, I didn't grow up during the Depression, but I'm guilty of that same thing. There are very few things I throw away.
Oh,
Mementos, sports
Right.
stuff,
Yeah.
mostly.
That ticket's going to be worth a fortune. Someday
that ticket
Phil
stub.
is going to sell that
That
ticket
Chuck
stub.
Berry, the autographed Chuck Berry
Yeah.
ticket stub. If only I could find it.
Oh,
It's
well,
funny
well-
you said that because just the other day I was going through some old boxes and I ran into 3 concert ticket stubs
Really?
that I
Yeah.
had gone to. Okay, so you want to hear what they are?
I do.
The first one was Adam Sandler when I think it was the late 90s. He came to UNH
Oh, okay.
and did
Yeah,
a concert.
yeah.
It was the most fun, one of the most fun concerts I've ever been to. He was hilarious, and he did all of his songs.
Yeah.
And, of course, the hometown crowd
Yeah.
loved him.
Sure.
The second one was George Michael
Okay. Yeah.
from the 80s
Yeah.
when he was doing his Faith tour. And let me tell you, he had his leathers on, and he was amazing.
Yeah.
And then the
Now,
third
where was
one,
that one? Where was the George Michael show?
that one, it was in Massachusetts. I can't remember where. I'm not going to think of it.
Okay.
But the third one was a smaller venue in Massachusetts, and it was Jethro Tull.
Oh, okay.
And that was an amazing concert.
There you go.
That's a very broad
but
taste
when you
in
do go to
music.
throw
Yeah.
things out, or at least tidy them up or whatever, organize them. You do run a lot, across a lot of memories. You really do,
Yeah.
and you think back to that time when you saw that show or that game or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I just totally dated myself, didn't I?
No.
Well, it makes me think about caregiving, going back to like having moved my in-laws recently out of a home of 60 years, or my grandmother, 70 years in her home. And you're the caregiver and you're trying to clean and tidy and make a living space better for doing the caregiving or safer. And the person you're trying to care for or help is like, what are you doing to my home? Why are you moving my stuff? I need those 15 Tupperware bowls, those margarine bowls. And I mean, my grandmother would get livid when we would try and unclutter her house a little
Yes.
bit or take
Yes.
away she thinks it's dirt and it's really ants.
Right.
You know,
well, and it's also they want to
that's
keep their
tricky.
independence. They don't want
Yeah.
those decisions taken away from them.
Yeah.
They want things the way they want them. So, and after we come back from the break, we're going to give away some Monarchs tickets, and we're going to
Sounds
talk about how these employers can help the employees create a better culture for their caregiving employees.
I just wonder before we get into that. I mean, I wonder if there are any employees that go in for job interviews, if they specify that they may need a day or hours during a particular day to be able to be the caregiver, care provider for whoever it may be in their life. Do you think that would, in some companies, I'm sure that would not be a good thing if they actually came out and said before they were hired that this is what they were going to need in
Right.
terms of time off.
And I'm sure people don't say anything unless they have to.
Right. Yeah.
And it's hard for the employer if none of their current employees are allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And now they're going to be
Ooh,
changing
yeah.
what they allow with this new employee coming in.
Yeah.
So it's tricky.
It is a tricky thing, and that's why I'm sure most people are very reticent to talk about it during the course of a job interview.
Right.
Yeah. Coach Carol Phillips is with us. 4:31 is the time. We're at the Beacon Building in our CrewCon Cruise Outlet Studio. CrewCon.com for more information. And as Coach Carol said, in just a little while, we will be giving away a family 4-pack Flex tickets for the Manchester Monarchs and any one of their upcoming home games at the SNHU Arena, which I'm feeling more comfortable with every day.
Snoo.
Yeah. Welcome Welcome back to the Beacon Building in downtown Manchester. Coach Carol Phillips is here, ladies and gentlemen. Ask Coach Carol, author of 52 Simple Ways to Health. And if you have a question or comment, views, ideas, and opinions on the topic that we have been discussing today, which is employer support for caregivers, a very important issue. And if you have any thoughts, if you've had a situation that has been positive or negative, perhaps, at your workplace, you can share it with us. 1-866-823-1077 is the number.
Yes, and our first caller is going to win a family 4-pack of Monarchs tickets, Flex Pack. So
All right.
it's not for a certain game. You can decide what game you want to go to and what's convenient for you and your family. And so call in, ask a question, offer a tip if you're a caregiver and you have a tip on what works for you as far as, working with your employer to make it easier for you to be a caregiver. Give us a call and share it with us.
All right, so we open up the phone lines right now. 1-866-823-1077 is our number. And I know you have some other interesting statistics and facts to pass along.
The latest statistics show that if employers are flexible and helpful with their caregiving employees, they're realizing a return of $3 to $14 for every dollar they invest in addressing this issue. So long term, you can end up getting a great return on supporting those employees because they're going to be less likely to quit. They're going to work harder for you. When they're done caregiving and, they get back to being able to focus full time on their job, they're going to be more productive. I mean, just look at the loyalty that was realized during the market basket strike.
Exactly.
Supporting that CEO who made them feel cared about.
Yeah.
So some of the things that some of the companies that are supporting caregiving employees are doing is they're offering resources and education. So now employees aren't having to call in sick or be out of work for a few hours because they're making phone calls trying to get resources on how to help their loved one. Some companies are actually offering elder care benefits, some specific time off in case you need to take care of somebody. So they're definitely supporting the system financially that way, which right away is going to make the employee feel less stressed.
Right.
So this is dedicated time that I'm allowed to take. The employee's going to appreciate that. And overall having a caring culture, just the difference between feeling like you have to hide it, like you're going to have, somebody's going to give you an attitude if they find out you're a caregiver, and that you're going to be more likely to have to take some time off in the near future, versus a company that says, go do what you need to do. We know you'll be back, later today or whatever the situation is. We support you. Go do what you need to do. And, it'll come back to the employer. The other thing that I love is some companies allow employees to donate some of their vacation time to their coworkers.
That's important.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Which, when I used to work for the state of New Hampshire, we had that program where you could donate time to somebody who was having an unexpected emergency, whatever the situation was. And it was just amazing because people love to give. They love to help other people out. And obviously that's not costing the company anything. Right. And most of the ideas don't cost companies any money. Right. So that's a great way to help out, is letting your employees donate to other coworkers.
That's what J-Dog does for me. He donates his days off to me, so I can be away. He never takes a day off.
His arm's not twisted behind his back, right?
No, he's never missed a show. He donates his vacation time to me. What a guy.
What a guy.
Yeah.
Go J-Dog.
Yeah.
Never missed a show. That's incredible.
What show are we on today, J-Dog?
897.
897.
Wow.
897. And
Good for you.
Has been involved with everyone. Me, far from it. But J-Dog has been there for every one of the Cail and Company programs since February 18th of what year, J-Dog, was it?
2013.
2013.
Wow.
There you go.
And, that's another great point is, if you have one employee who has some extra need to help take care of a family member, you've got other employees who go above and beyond. So you have to look at things balancing out. So we were talking on the break about how sometimes employers worry about one employee who might take advantage of a situation. But what I tell employers is, if you worry about the minority, you're going to lose the majority. So you need to be focused on the majority. So one of the other helpful ways that employers can support caregivers is offering flexible work hours. So, talking to them and saying, hey, do you want to change your work hours? What hours would be beneficial to you right now? There might be a situation where a caregiver has some help from a relative in the evening. So certain days of the week, they might have to take a 2-hour lunch, but they can work after 5 o'clock and more than make up the time that they missed. So just being flexible might help your employee give you that time back. The other thing that could be important is creating a quiet space for your employees. When people are caregiving, they tend to have to make phone calls on a regular basis to set up appointments or call to see if a prescription is going to be ready they can pick up on their way home, or take a phone call from that loved one if they're having a bad day. So just being flexible and giving your employees a quiet space where they can go and make these phone calls and have some privacy can make a huge difference. And then allowing the incoming calls at unexpected times. Because for the most part, the calls aren't going to take long. But if you're supporting them, it can make all the difference. They won't feel like they have to leave to go address an issue, that maybe they can just take care of something during a phone call.
I see you have something from AARP there, and I just wonder if they might, or if they do this, I don't know whether they do or not, but maybe act as advocates for some people, in dealing with employers and, setting them straight on how difficult it is sometimes to do this sort of thing. I mean, I don't know if AARP is an outfit that does that or not, but create an awareness anyway of how difficult a task this can be.
Right, they are a great resource, and that's where I got some of my information. One of the articles was how employers can support working caregivers, and that's from the AARP website.
Yeah.
So you can get great information there. You can call if your family member has dementia. The Alzheimer's Association is a great resource. And then also, most doctor's offices have a social worker that you can get information from. So I know in my mother's situation, I would call the doctor's office and talk to the social worker to give me information on resources, and that was really helpful.
A good idea. There are a lot of good ideas that you're putting forth today, Carol, and a lot of things that it affects a lot of people. But then there's the other segment of the population who don't think about it at all, because maybe they're not old enough perhaps to have a parent or someone in their life in this kind of a situation as yet. But it's something that affects 66 million people, million adults, 66 million adults in the United States on a regular basis, and something that employers have to bear in mind and be as generous with their employees in this regard as possible, really.
Yeah, and it's not a situation that's going to go away. There's always going to be employees whose parents are getting older and they need help. So why not just learn to work as a team?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that will, it's not going to end anytime soon, ever, as a matter of fact. If you have any questions, comments, views, ideas, opinions on what we've been discussing today, you can give us a call, and at the same time, pick up a family 4-pack of Flex tickets to see the Manchester Monarchs. And you're following the action of Coach Carol Phillips here today, author, and a great author, too, 52 Simple Ways to Health, an award-winning book. And Carol does so many things. Author is just one of them.
Busy.
Author, athlete, lecturer, CPR instructor, you name it.
First aid, CPR.
You name it. Coach Carol does it. how can people get in touch with you?
Oh, let's see. They can call me directly, 603-321-2750, or they can email me at Carol, Carol, at healthdesignnh.com.
Simple as that, ladies and gentlemen. And Carol has 4 flex tickets for the Monarchs and for any Monarchs game this regular season.
Yes, the next caller.
Next caller.
Next caller wins the tickets.
Caller number 1, 1-866-823-1077 is the number. No strings attached. Just have to be caller number 1, 1-866-823-1077, and give your information to J-Dog. It is as simple as that. Well, I hope at the very least that, at least we create a little awareness and, maybe there are employers that are listening to this program right now that are looking at this in a different light than they did at the start of the hour.
I hope so.
We can only hope so.
And it can be as simple as saying, hey, how's your dad doing? Let us know if you need anything. And so it takes that stigma away where the employee might be thinking, nervous about the next time they're a few minutes late, just feeling like they're supported because, when people work for you, they're choosing to work for you.
Yeah.
They could go work for somebody else.
No, exactly.
Now, do you think, Carol, too, say if someone went to talk to their supervisor or their boss, if they bring a solution with them, could I change my hours on Wednesday? Could I do this telecommuting? My colleague was willing to switch a task with me. If the employee kind of just tries to bring some kind of solution to the table,
absolutely,
maybe the supervisor's thinking, oh, thank you, because now I don't have to think about it.
Right.
You told me what you need. You're taking that burden off of your boss to have one more task on her plate to sort out.
And that's applicable anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you go to your supervisor with a problem, you want to have a solution ready if possible. Right. And so, thinking outside the box, because think about it, your supervisor might be the type of person who doesn't think outside the box.
Correct. Yeah.
Or might be thinking, you're bringing me a problem, you need to solve it.
Yeah.
So, exactly, anything you can bring to the table to try to make up for that. Because, even though we want the employers to be supportive, it is still your issue. Mm-hmm. So, absolutely. Anything you can do to try to make up makes a difference.
Because most supervisors are overworked and they're getting pressured from their boss.
Exactly.
And if you can solve the problem for them, or at least bring a beginning conversation, usually a supervisor is thankful when an employee of a direct report brings the solution with them.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jonathan, by the way, Jonathan is our winner.
Yay!
Congratulations to Jonathan. Where is Jonathan from, J-Dog? Oh, didn't say.
Congrats, Jonathan.
Way to go.
We'll enjoy that.
Thanks for calling, Jonathan. Enjoy the Monarchs family 4-pack to any game this season on the Flex Package tickets. Well, Coach Carol, we hear the music in the background. Anything else you would care to add before we have to wrap things up?
No, it's just always fun here. We always have a good time, and Ella the Pearl is over there dancing, and
every day.
I will report that Coach Carol did not eat any of the chocolate cupcakes there.
Yet.
That's the operative word.
Everything in moderation.
Ella the
You
Pearl,
should see how yummy these look.
How many did you have, Pearl?
I had one.
You had one.
Oh, 3/4.
3/4.
I didn't eat the
Where did the
cake,
other
though.
quarter go? Well, anyway, J-Dog, the good news is there is some for you tomorrow.